Thanks, Chrissy, and thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for the opportunity to talk to you about the Azure Minerals story, and in particular the Andover Battery Metals project. As of a few weeks ago, that was the Andover Nickel project, but it's also now become the Andover Lithium project, along with some copper and cobalt as well. So we seem to be ticking a lot of the boxes when it comes to the battery metals commodities. Firstly, an acknowledgement to the traditional owners, the Ngarluma people, on the land in which we operate. We could not be working there without their approvals and their acceptance of what we're doing out there. So we do thank them for their cooperation in what we're doing. Corporately, just a quick snapshot there. The company's got $10 million in the bank at the moment. Market cap's a bit over $100 million. We have our major shareholders, Mark Creasy, and closely followed by the German Deutsche Balaton Group. But the third one there is SQM, new to our register, currently sitting at just under 5%. And the second part of the deal that we've just executed with SQM is that they'll be committing another $15 million into the company for a total of $20 million for 19.99% of Azure. And to have the world's largest or second largest lithium producer coming on board with such a strategic cornerstone stake in our project, in our company, is a real tick in the positive column for the potential for lithium on our Andover project. So Andover is located in the West Pilbara region of Western Australia. It's located about 5 kilometres south of the town of Roebourne and about 30 kilometres east of Karratha. It's one of the best located from a logistics point of view, a mining project anywhere in Australia. So just to the south of us we have all of Rio Tinto's iron ore mines. To the north of us, just offshore, is Woodside's oil and gas facilities. The Chevron gas facilities are there on the Burrup Peninsula as well. So all of the infrastructure you could possibly want for a mining project is located very close to where we are. We have a gas pipeline that crosses the tenement. We've got highways, roads, potable water supplies, high voltage power lines, everything you could possibly need. The Andover project's about 108 square kilometres. So a relatively modest sized project, but within that area of that project we've located and drilled out 2 nickel, copper, cobalt sulphide deposits, and with multiple other targets yet to be tested in that space. And we've also recently been announcing a lot of identification of numerous outcropping lithium-rich pegmatite bodies on the project area as well. So this, we are actually got a serious amount of battery metal potential on the project area. In terms of the nickel side of things, with the mineral resources, with, as I mentioned, 2 deposits, the Andover deposit and the Ridgeline deposit. Andover was announced in March of last year. Ridgeline was, we announced the MRE for that only a week or so ago. Combined, there's a total of about 6 million tonnes of nearly 1.5% nickel equivalent for just under 100,000 tonnes of contained nickel plus copper plus cobalt in those 2 deposits located right next door to each other. So that's a very, very attractive project right there and then. And so we are continuing with our growth strategy. It's a dual pathway, both the nickel, copper and cobalt on one hand and the lithium on the other. So exploration, resource drilling, development studies are all underway as we speak on both of those. One of the great benefits of working on the Andover project is basically all the rocks stick out of the ground. Those rocks are over 3 billion years old and they're still there in pristine condition at surface. And that enables us to do traditional boots on the ground exploration, so geological mapping, rock chip sampling, identification of anomalous mineralisation at surface. As you can see there in some of the photographs, we've got at the top photograph is outcropping spodumene-rich pegmatites. On the bottom left you've got outcropping copper mineralisation in fresh rock, and on the right hand side you've got nickel and copper and cobalt gossan there, which is sitting over the top of one of our ore bodies. So we actually have at surface multiple examples of outcropping mineralisation, and that just makes the exploration so much easier. So we're going to talk a bit briefly about the lithium story at the moment. There's an aerial photograph of the tenement package. There's 3 exploration licences totalling 108 square kilometres. The yellow stars are some of the nickel prospects that we've identified, but the red shapes that you can see on there, they are the visually confirmed outcropping pegmatites that we've identified and mapped on surface. So that pegmatite swarm is from east to west, is about 9 kilometres long. At its widest point on the eastern side of the tenement area, it's 4 kilometres wide. We've identified over 700 individual outcropping pegmatite bodies within that swarm, and they vary in size up to over 1 kilometre long and plus 100 metres wide at surface. So the potential is there for some significant volume of pegmatites. And within that, those outcrops, we're identifying the lithium-rich mineral spodumene, which is the preferred lithium mineral, on a lot of those outcrops. And the majority of those pegmatites seem to be quite shallow dipping, either flat-lying or 10 to 20 degrees towards the north. And this is what some of the outcrops will be looking like that we've sampled. So on the left-hand side, the photograph there is that particular outcrop, majority of it is spodumene. The assays we got back from this rock and similar ones in the area are all in between the 4 and 5% lithium grade, which is incredibly high grade for rock chip samples. On the right-hand side, you have a more bladed style of spodumene, and those samples in that area came back in the 3% range. And we have some examples of this at our booth outside, so you're very welcome to come along and pick them up and have a closer look at the spodumene. Zooming in on one of the areas where we did a lot of work, there's a number of prospects there. We took an initial just over 100 samples, with which we could visually, in some of them, we could see a lot of spodumene. Some of them it was quite fine-grained. And within those samples, 109 samples, over 73 samples returned over 2% lithium. So incredibly high grade and really continuous across that zone. And then you can see on there, there are multiple high-grade samples that are on these mapped occurrences of the outcropping pegmatites. And then late last year, as Chrissy said earlier, we were drilling a nickel target, and it's hole 199 up here, and we're just testing a geophysical target. We didn't hit much nickel in it, but we actually went through a very high-grade lithium-rich pegmatite there that returned over 7 metres at 1.5% lithium. So very, very encouraging there. And we weren't even really targeting that particular pegmatite. We drilled it, we recognised it, sampled it, and got a great result. And this is a photograph of a piece of the drill core there. The overall intercept just over 7 metres at 1.5%. This particular sample that the geologist is holding, just once again 1.5% lithium oxide, and you can see in there that the white shapes, they are the long blades of spodumene that you see in the core, that you see in the outcrop as well, and they're all in a ground mass or a host of grey quartz. So it's really in this rock, you've got quartz and you've got spodumene. Work program going forward for the lithium in this year is drill, drill, drill. So we've got diamond drilling starting within the next week or so, and that will be continuing for as far as I can see, and RC drilling probably getting underway in March, and potentially 40,000 metres. If we are successful with the hitting lithium, then that 40,000 metres will be over by mid-year. And then we'll just rinse and repeat and go out and do a lot more, because this is looking incredibly promising. On the nickel, copper and cobalt side, we've got two deposits, as I mentioned, the Andover deposit and the Ridgeline deposit, both located in the lower left-hand corner, in the southwest corner of the tenement area. And really good, consistent mineralisation. The potential we see is for multiple deposits in the Andover area, and potentially, if it develops in that direction, we have multiple mines feeding a centrally located processing facility. Two deposits are located very close to each other. There's only 200 metres between Ridgeline and Andover deposits, so that presents a co-development underground mining scenario there that we're currently investigating with the scoping study that's underway. Certainly the metallurgy of both deposits is excellent. We get really high recoveries of nickel, copper and cobalt into two separate concentrates, a copper concentrate and a nickel cobalt concentrate. Very good grades in those, 25% copper in the copper con and 13% nickel in the nickel con, and very low levels of deleterious elements as well. So this actually produces two really high-grade clean concentrates, which would be very highly desirable in the marketplace. quick snapshot of the long section of the Andover deposit there. So we're looking towards the north. Over 70% of this deposit is in the indicated category, and which makes it a very robust deposit in its own right. But what's really nice about it is the centrally, that part that's in red there, the indicated, the consistency of mineralisation, both in terms of the width of the mineralisation, the grade of the mineralisation, and just the continuity of it from top to bottom is excellent. We're talking up to 25 metres in true width there, which would make it a very convenient underground mining scenario. And on ridgeline, we've got on the left as a plan view, on the right-hand side a long section there. Once again, very good continuity. This was a blind deposit. It doesn't come to closer than 200 metres to surface, so we didn't discover it from surface exploration. We discovered it by drilling next door at the Andover deposit and then seeing the geophysical signature of this deposit of ridgeline through one of the westernmost holes on Andover. So that indicates that there is potentially a lot more of these deposits that are not yet recognised below surface, and just further exploration is needed to identify and drill those out as well. And both with the Andover deposit and this ridgeline deposit, mineralisation is continuous and is open at depth, so further drilling at depth is likely to significantly increase the size of the resources. So where to from here for the Andover project? Well, on the nickel side of things, we've completed the 2 MREs, and we've got a lot of other really high priority targets which we are going to be continuing as well. And so that nickel exploration is ongoing, but in parallel with that we have a second stream, a second pathway, and that is the lithium exploration. So we have 2 teams on site, a nickel focused team and an exploration team focused on the lithium. The drilling will be underway very shortly on the lithium. That's going to be ongoing throughout this year, I would expect. So there's a lot of activity on the ground from an exploration perspective. And then on the development side of things, we've completed, we are nearing completion of the scoping study for a development strategy on the Andover nickel deposit. And those components are that you can see on the right-hand side. And if we are successful, then that work will just be ongoing as well. ESG is obviously very important. The community relationship side of things is incredibly important for us up there, as is the environmental side as well. So we spend a lot of time and effort working very hard to make sure that we abide by the absolutely highest standards possible. So where to for the rest of the year? Well, on the nickel, we have a scoping study nearing completions, come out sometime in the next 2 or 3 months. If that gives us a positive outcome, and you just don't know until you get the final results, then I would expect that we would launch straight into doing a PFS and then into a DFS, into a development option for the nickel side of things, and obviously continuing to drill additional resources. The lithium, drill. That's what we want to be doing, a lot of drilling, and once we get samples coming in, we'll be doing the metallurgical studies plus all the other various hydrological and environmental studies that need to be done on those areas as well. And potentially, maybe, a maiden MRE by the end of this year. So that's the Azure Minerals story and the Andover Battery Metals project, and I thank you very much for your attention.